Welcome to the Wealth Through Real Estate Investing Podcast, your source for real-world strategies focused on creating long-term wealth, cash flow, and financial freedom through real estate. Through guidance, tips, and stories of highly successful real estate investors and thought leaders, we provide you the tools to succeed and to reach the lifestyle you always wanted. And now, your host, Dwaine Clarke.
Hello and welcome to the Wealth Through Real Estate Investing Show. This is your host, Dwaine Clarke. Today we have Lucs Obispo. He is a multifamily real estate investor and co-founder of Make It Rain Capital. Luc, thank you so much for joining us on the show. And how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show, Dwaine. Really looking forward to chatting and digging into things.
Absolutely. Really looking forward to it. You're a young, aspiring entrepreneur. Definitely going to get into your background. For those who are not familiar with you, would you mind telling our audience about how you got started in real estate and what your current focus is?
I guess the short story would be that, I'd had exposure to it growing up. My parents had a couple of single family residences, so I understood this power of having an asset and then being able to rent it out as well. And then when I finished grad school in 2012, I ended up reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And a lot of the basic concepts in that resonated with me. I know it's kind of a seminal book for a lot of people, for sure. And then a few years later, I had the opportunity to invest into two deals in Central Texas as a passive investor. So ended up moving forward with those. And then earlier on this year, my wife and I, we decided that, okay, well, we need to get on the active side if we really want to achieve what our goals are in life for ourselves and for our families. And so then earlier this year in 2020, we decided that we'd move over to the active side and have been building out the team, started a podcast, continuing to network, and then we're moving into the market as well. So that's kind of the short version of how I got started and then where I am today.
Awesome. You kind of talk about kind of the mindset of what you had, because, you having the educational and professional experience of, architecture, engineering, construction. Most people kind of say, I'm going to be an active professional. Those are very niche type of industries where people just kind of jump in. But you just say, I'm going to be a real estate investor, and that'll be kind of your path to, wealth and financial freedom, all your goals. Can you take us through kind of your mindset of saying, I'm going to do this instead of kind of the traditional route where most people say, I'm going to be an engineer or in the construction industry?
Yeah, I think what it was for me, Dwaine, was once I started working, and I started working when I was 22, right after school. I looked at who was in charge of the firm that I was at, and I was thinking, okay, this isn't what I want to be doing day after day. It didn't light a fire, right? There wasn't passion for me in that, I could end up being there and doing that, but it just wasn't. I just don't think it was the right fit for myself and for my personality. I always kind of felt like I would end up, running my own shop, running my own deal at some point, running my own business. I just didn't know exactly what that would look like, but I always felt that way since I was, 16, 17 or so. And so for me, it just didn't make sense to continue really diving deep into being an engineer day after day. And especially when I didn't have an ownership stake in it or didn't have any equity in it. So that was a big part of it for me. But then also the other piece too is, it's the industry itself. I don't think it lends itself long-term to building wealth, at least for what my goals are. I think for other people, it may end up working great, but for what my goals are, I don't think it would end up working in the long term, just because of the nature of the business. It's very service oriented, and it's on a project by project basis. It's on a job by job basis. Really, the value that you have, if you do have equity in the company, it's tied to you, and it's tied to the value that you're able to bring. Whereas with real estate, there is this hard asset that's backing up all of the work that you're constantly doing. Of course, the value of an entire firm, let's say for like a real estate syndication firm, is part of it is tied to the operators, because that's a big value piece to it. But there are these hard assets that are backing it up, which was just much more attractive to me ultimately at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one thing that also kind of struck me as you said that is that you're working for another company and you're making the owner rich and getting having them reach their goals. And for some people that's okay, where they just want to kind of work for, but people that have like a different trajectory in life, that want to have a different path. Most of the people that we interview on the show are looking at financial freedom and building wealth, and you can actually do that at the same time while being a working professional. But ideally, like, the most ultimate path is kind of taking ownership and getting involved in these types of deals. So that which leads to my next question of kind of the asset classes that you choose on your path to financial freedom. Understands like multifamily, commercial real estate. Can you talk about the assets that you like to invest in?
Yeah, for me, it's always been multifamily. I mean, I've just been bullish on it for a long time. I think that at the very basics, people need a place to live. And so that's a big piece to it. It may look different. There's a lot of disruption that happens with technology. The how and the where of it may look different as time goes on, but Americans are still going to need a place to live. And then also if you look over the past several decades, the best net risk adjusted returns have been through commercial and specifically multifamily real estate for a slew of different sorts of assets that are out there. So I've just been sold on it for so long. Maybe I'm kind of, it's like preaching to the choir in a way, but yeah, I've just definitely been sold on the asset class for so long, and investing in multifamily real estate specifically is what I've done as a passive investor, and then what I plan to do moving forward as an active investor.
And then you had mentioned, like I said, the move to Texas on the active side. Can you kind of talk about that specific market? I know a lot of investors down there, and just kind of talking to different investors in different marketplaces. And Texas is a really big target market. Can you tell me what attracted you there, as well as the deal that you invested in? What are the elements that attracted you to that deal as well?
Yeah, I guess from a macro perspective, it was that the state's very landlord friendly. A lot of those cities are very landlord friendly as well. So that ends up helping, even just business friendly, period. So that was it. There's continued population growth, continued jobs. Companies have been moving there. It has been happening. Now it's like there's this sort of mass exodus, it seems like, from the other states over to Texas. But it's been going on for several years. And yeah, it's been going on for several years, Dwaine. So that was a big part of it. Having a pretty diversified workforce. I mean, different MSAs there have different amounts of diversity. So like Dallas is extremely diverse, whereas I would say San Antonio is a bit less diverse, and then Austin is a bit less diverse as well, especially within the tech industry. But just seeing that there is a diverse workforce ends up making me feel good about investing in there as well. And I guess to your second question about the specific deals, so there was that macro side, which was there 3 to 4 years ago and is still there today. But then having trust in the underwriting, having an engineering background, I ended up taking the operator's underwriting and did my own, just to be able to back check what they were doing and have a better understanding of what I was putting my money into. Because up until that point, I never really invested in anything like that. And I just wanted to have a lot of confidence and surety around what I was doing. And so did my own underwriting. We actually ended up meeting with the operators as well. My now wife, then girlfriend, and we invested alongside each other. So we met with one of the operators who was there local to us in Los Angeles, and then also secret shopped them too. So that was, we were we're in a position to be able to, but I figured, okay, if we're putting in $50K and it costs $500 or maybe even $1,000 to go and secret shop them over the course of 2 or 3 days, that ends up being worth it, because then we just have a lot more surety around what we're doing, and can feel much more confident. It's like, okay, if I'm putting in, 5 figures into a deal, then it makes sense to really feel good about what we're doing at the end of the day.
Yeah, I definitely like that approach a lot. Cause like I said, a lot of people don't take the time to do that, especially, investing, any type of money, is an investment into anything, definitely should take some type of assurances that, as you work with a, reputable operator, the market, all of the elements, and of course you having that background, your experience give you that other additional edge to be able to underwrite it and just make sure that it's an ideal thing. And that kind of leads me into kind of you as a young entrepreneur, young professional, you and your wife, and then hearing with other millennials where they're coming out of 2021, they're in their college, and they're looking at their future to kind of take some steps that you taken in order to get into, passive investing, active investing, and just kind of taking more control of their future. Can you kind of comment on that as far as like being a role model for millennials?
Yeah. I appreciate you saying that. I don't look at myself as necessarily a role model, but I end up realizing that I start to come across that way, Dwaine. I think going back and looking at my own experience, I didn't put money into things that I didn't understand. And I would, I won't give any advice that I haven't done myself. So I didn't put money into things I didn't understand, like the retirement accounts. At that time, I didn't understand how the public markets and the public equities actually worked and how mutual funds were structured and all of that. Like, I'm not doing the 401k thing. I just don't understand it. But I always had, I always had some sort of plan, and I still do at this point. And I know that probably where I'll be 5 years from now is a bit different than where my plan is, but I've always just had that plan and that entrepreneurial mindset, I would say, around thinking about the future. What do I want for myself? What do I want for my family? What do I want for my future family, and for my community? And so that's sort of kept me on like this certain mindset of thinking, okay, there's more to life than, making other people rich, right? It's like, I want to do that for myself and for my own community. And I don't necessarily want to only do that for my employer. If you're a good employee, if you're doing a great job, that's going to happen automatically, of course. But I want to have part of that equity too. That's the way to build long-term wealth and to build generational wealth, hopefully. And so my mind's always just kind of been there and thinking, okay, like there's more to life than just this. That's right in front of me, or what's been told to me or presented to me in the past.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And just kind of have that legacy mindset, thinking about the future, thinking about your family, thinking about your community, and, just taking just little steps. And what's been key to me that you've been saying is, as far as kind of education, you did, of course, your education early on through college, but also kind of educating yourself on the asset class and markets and things like that in order to, know and be able to touch the type of things that you're investing in and just get more familiar with it. And I think as more younger folks start to educate themselves, just get more familiar with, what they're doing, then, they're able to take those same steps, while enjoying their life at the same time, but also kind of looking out for the future, which I think is very important and key. You had mentioned earlier that you had a podcast and just kind of getting more information out there. Can you kind of tell us about your show, and then what people can learn from there, and also where they can also access that as well?
Yeah, definitely. So we started that, I guess it really premiered in May of 2020, early May, and it's called Make It Rain, Multifamily Real Estate Investing for Millennials. And at the time when we were doing our market research, so to speak, we just didn't really see that a lot of people were really speaking to millennials. And with the two of us, with my wife and I being millennials, we felt like, okay, well, we can end up speaking to them, and we know what hot buttons are there for them, and be able to chat with them about those things. And so it's been going strong, and I guess we'll finish episode 36 as the last episode coming out this year. And it's been great. I mean, we have more than just millennials on there. Of course, we try to target millennials and speak to them, but we have all sorts of guests who are on all different age ranges, all different experience levels, all different parts of the industry. And so we're just really, the mission for us is to be able to increase access and education around these different investment vehicles that are out there. Of course, we focus on multifamily because that's what we like, that's what we love. But just being able to broaden people's horizons, because at this point we have so much more opportunity than I think our parents' generation did. And there's just so much information out there, and it's hard to have an excuse to be ignorant about almost anything at this point, right? You have to pick and choose what you want to focus on, of course. But I mean, there's just so much information out there, Dwaine. And so whether it's connecting with people via a podcast or reaching out to them on LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever, I think that there's a lot of opportunity out there for people my age, for people who are older than me, for people who are younger than me, just being here and having technology and being able to reach and talk to people.
Yeah, you really hit a lot of points that I like, is that you can't be ignorant, because like I said, it's so much available access to information that's out there. And then just with tools like LinkedIn, you can actually reach out to people and me and our show, we talk to so many different investors and thought leaders that, you know, and they're willing to just share this information for free, and it's just like they're just willing to give back because they know the more that they give, the more that they will receive back as well. So just really just putting yourself out there and just having that mindset to think like, you know, I'm going to do this. I'm going to learn whatever asset class it be, if it's even on, you know, fixing and flipping houses, even to the commercial side, this information that's out there, and it's not as guarded as it used to be back in the day where you had to go to the library and, you know, read through books or pay people tons of money in order to get that knowledge. But yeah, it just really is key just getting out there. And I really appreciate you sharing that, and also with your show to actually reach out specifically to millennials, that just to give them more access to information. So that's really cool. Can you take us through like a typical work day for you? And do you have any special morning routines?
Yeah, so typical work day for me. So I still have a W-2 job, and I will, once we end up moving out there, my wife will be able to work full time on real estate and continue to build Make It Rain. But I guess a typical work day, I'll wake up pretty early. I mean, I try to wake up before the sun is up, and I'll typically just move around a bit, get some water, wake up a little bit. I end up doing some meditation. So I use Waking Up from Sam Harris, and it's been great for me. I've tried several different apps over the past maybe 5-6 years, but that's just been the one that's resonated with me most. So I will typically do that. I write down my goals, and at this point, I have a dozen that I write down. But some of these goals are hard to accomplish, or it's almost like you can't accomplish them. Like I end up writing that I have a happy, healthy, and supportive spouse. It's like, well, that's something that's just like, that's continual work every single day. But then I have these other goals that may take 10 years to accomplish in terms of like numbers, right? And there's other goals where, you know, I write that I have happy, healthy, and supportive relationships. And so those are those things that just get me in the right mind frame, I would say. And then I make coffee. I'm a very big coffee nerd / coffee snob in a way. So I just end up making my coffee in the morning as well, and then would end up starting the workday. And then in the evening, it would end up being continuing. I mean, I focus on the marketing piece of our business and then also the underwriting piece. So whether it's underwriting a deal or whether it's doing email marketing, taking care of our podcast, putting out stuff on social media, doing LinkedIn, like you said, that ends up being pretty typical. And then in the evenings, my wife and I, Daisy, we always end up checking in and like talking, whether it's formally or informally, about real estate stuff or just stuff about life that's going on, and just work to stay on the same page there. And then once it hits, typically it's been 8 o'clock, 8:30. I just shut off, and I'm like, okay, there's no more real estate talk, because it's easy for us to keep going. And then it's a matter of I don't know, just watching stuff on YouTube or watching stuff around kettlebells. Just something else that's like interesting to me that I can shut off my brain for a little bit. And then typically before I go to sleep, I'll review my day, at least mentally, and just think about, okay, like these are the things that I was hoping to do. These are the things that I feel like worked out well. These are the things that I feel like I can improve upon, just to have a, kind of a barometer check on the day, and then start all over. So that's a pretty typical work day, I would say.
Awesome. Yeah, I like that a lot. And as far as any tools and research, I know you work with your wife and things like that, as far as kind of any technology tools that you guys use to make yourself more productive.
Yeah. I mean, of course, there's social media. That's a huge one, right? LinkedIn could qualify as a tool. For me, it's been amazing to be able to connect with people through it. Using Zoom as well has been awesome over this year in 2020 with everything, so many things going virtual. And we also use HubSpot as a CRM. That's just been a really solid way to just keep track of all the conversations that we have. I do not like using CRMs. I mean, I've been in sales for 6 going on 7 years as my W-2 work, and CRMs are something that are necessary, but they're not my favorite thing to do. But I'm not like a super big operations person, but I understand that it's necessary. And so the CRM, it's like, it's like taking your medicine almost. you have to do it, and you thank yourself later on, once you've done it. So I'd say those three, so generally speaking, social media, I throw LinkedIn in there with Zoom, and then also using a CRM has just been huge.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. With all your success and like I said, all of the things that you kind of encompass and think about, especially towards your future, you're taking massive action. What can you say that you're most grateful for?
A big piece for me is honestly, I mean, being born here in America. So, I mean, we were talking beforehand, my dad's from Trinidad, and he came here when he was around 20 years old, and his parents were from Grenada and from Carriacou. And then on my mom's side, she was born here in America. Her mom was born in New York. My mom's grandparents were from Europe, and they survived. They left before the Holocaust. My grandfather was Spanish, and he was from Spain. And so, I mean, I just think being born here in America, all the opportunities that are here, of course, we have things that we're all working on as a country, and there are issues in that way. But I mean, there's just so much opportunity. And I think that there's this whole kind of like lineage behind me, all my ancestors. And I feel like they were all strong people, and they've sacrificed so much. And I have an obligation to take advantage as best I can of all the opportunities that are here, whether they're in America or whether they're somewhere else just in my life. So that's something I think about very often. At this point, it's a daily thing that I think about. Pretty much when I'm writing down my goals or after my meditation in the morning. And yeah, I mean, that's just something I'm very grateful for. I mean, I'm a citizen. I was born here. I didn't do anything. It was just kind of random. Like I just, I'm here, and I've had opportunities, and I've just worked to take advantage of them, Dwaine. And that's something that I'm extremely grateful for, because not so many people aren't born into the kind of situation that I was born into, with all of the opportunities that are available.
Absolutely. Yeah, very well said. I appreciate you sharing that. And then also, we'll make sure to include all of your contact information for all of the guests who's interested in contacting Luc and his company, learning more about him. We'll also include his LinkedIn profile as well. But what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Yeah, the best way is, I would say you can email me. It's lucluke@makeitraincapital.com. And I'd say reach out. I'll end up responding. I mean, don't think of me as some, I don't know, pundit or anything, or we'll end up setting up calls with people. We chat with people. Even if it's just to talk about our journey some more, if people have questions, or refer them to other resources, other podcasters, other people in the industry. So my wife and I, we've had calls individually, we've had calls collectively with people, with other couples around what they're doing, more about us. And so I'd say reach out to me there. All those other places that Dwaine had mentioned, that'll be in the show notes, you can reach out to me there as well. But you can reach out to me on my personal email account, and I'll definitely respond.
I appreciate that, Luc. So make sure to look forward to that. And Luc, it was a pleasure to speak with you. Love talking to other young professionals and doing big things. And you best of your wife and safe travels. Have a best Christmas holiday and a New Year. And we look forward to connecting with you again soon.
Yeah, thanks, Dwaine. It's been awesome. I appreciate you having me on. I know it's a lot of work to run a podcast and to prepare and to have guests on, so I definitely appreciate it. And have a Merry Christmas to yourself, and looking forward to seeing your continued success.
All right, thank you. You as well. All right, take care, my friend.
All right, take care.
Hey there, this is Dwaine Clarke, your host of the Wealth Through Real Estate Investing Show. I want to thank you again for tuning in, and hope you're enjoying this valuable content. While I got you for a quick minute, I wanted to send you an invitation to join our growing investor community. It's called the Passive Investors Club. It's a group of like-minded individuals like you who are seeking financial freedom and to build true wealth through passive investing in commercial real estate. We take a totally different approach to investing that is opposite, that is pushed by the financial advisors and what we see in the mainstream media. We like to invest in real assets that we can touch and understand, and that are not subject to the wild swings of the financial markets. We don't want to be part of the herd who pursues the traditional route, leaving our financial future to Wall Street. So if you're interested in joining our group and to sharing resources and opportunities, then go to PassiveInvestorsClub.com, club.com/join. Joining the club is completely free and there's no obligation. And all our members receive our free Passive Investors course along with tons of resources and content. So again, PassiveInvestorsClub.com/join.